Good evening. Today is the last day of June, and I'm coming to you with another State of the Church update to give you some idea of where things are as we're thinking about today and the future of life together at Grace Church in Roanoke, Virginia. This is the fourth monthly update that I've given you since the whole COVID-19 outbreak started. We went through the initial shock together of not being able to meet as a church. We've gone through the realization that was not going to be just for a few weeks. We've worked through what it looks like to do everything online together as a church, everything from praying to worshiping together to giving financially. We even brought on a new pastor and his family into the life of the church in the middle of all of this. At the end of last month, we had just started meeting together publicly again with outdoor and indoor services. It has been different doing that, although it's been encouraging. I think it's been encouraging to many of you all. That's the feedback that I get. It sure has been encouraging to me. It's been unusual to meet separately. Sometimes some of us inside, some of us outside, but it's been good to be together, and it's been very encouraging that we can do this. When I made the last video, I had hoped that I would be telling you a month later that restrictions are further relaxed and we're able to be more free, but it doesn't. We're not quite there yet from the looks of things and the numbers right now with positive tests for COVID in our area. It looks like things are going to continue the way they are a little bit longer. The plan from the governor is still that phase 3 would begin tomorrow, July the 1st. Even though it does appear that this virus is still spreading and even more rapidly in some areas of the country. Phase 3 beginning is not really going to affect the way that we meet together as a church for right now. Phase 3 does involve the removal of any kind of restrictions to attendance at religious gatherings indoors, but the mask requirement continues. So we're going to continue to have two services, one at 9 a.m., one at 11 a.m., one outdoors, one indoors. We think that's the best way to accommodate the folks in our congregation in their varied places of need and comfort in regards to meeting together. That'll enable us to keep having some more space also to be able to distance from each other a little bit while we're gathered together. We're still not going to have nursery for right now. We're not going to start Sunday school back quite yet. The elders are meeting next week to discuss what this fall is going to look like at the church, what education is going to look like, what our missions conference is going to look like this year. And there are some encouraging things, some ideas that I think are going to be encouraging to you all that we'll get back to you with soon, but we need to discuss them and work out the details. Right now, as far as our Sunday morning service goes, we've got the live stream going relatively smoothly. My own family, we tuned in this last Sunday and worshiped at home with you all through the live stream. Because the live stream is working relatively smoothly, we're going to discontinue a pre-recorded message in an order of service for home right now, and we're going to encourage those of you that are worshiping at home to tune into that live stream at 11 o'clock or to watch it afterwards. I know that 11 o'clock is not possible for all of you, but that live stream, once it's broadcast, is then automatically recorded and you can watch it at any time. So if you're not able to come to our public meetings and meet with people yet, we want to encourage you to take advantage of the live stream. That's going to be the primary online resource that we provide for worshiping at home from now on. We are going to continue to have prayer meetings on Sunday night. We're not going to start having an evening service again quite yet. For right now, we're going to continue having a prayer meeting online via Zoom and a prayer meeting here at the church in the outdoor chapel, both at 5:30. For the meeting here, we are going to start to sing some songs together and make that meeting a little bit more robust. There won't be a sermon preached. It's not going to be an evening service. It'll still be a prayer meeting. But we want to take advantage of the time that we have together. Now, with Sunday nights continuing as a prayer meeting for now, and continuing with our Wednesday noon prayer meeting, we have decided that we're going to transition our Thursday night prayer meeting into a Bible study. Now, we haven't been able to have Sunday school. We haven't been able to have the kind of Bible teaching that we're accustomed to at different times during the week as a church. And we have an abundance of prayer meetings right now. So we're going to transition Thursday night into a Bible study. Pastor Bruce and I are going to take turns leading that Bible study. It's going to be on the book of Hebrews to start with. It's going to be available online for now. Hopefully, in the near future, there will be an in-person component. We're looking into that, figuring out what that will look like if some of us want to gather here for that. But for right now, it's going to be online via Zoom. So the same way that you've been logging into the Thursday night prayer meeting, log in, but it'll be a Bible study this week instead of the normal prayer meeting. So have your Bible handy when you log in, and we're hopefully gonna look at Hebrews chapter 1 verses 1 through 4 this week, and I'm gonna lead that study. We are going to continue our children's resources that we're providing on Wednesday evenings, and we're going to continue having our youth meetings. Those of you with middle school and high school aged students, Mr. Dowdy has been doing an excellent job leading a youth meeting and a Bible study in the Psalms on Wednesday nights, and we're going to continue that. So that's the general plan through July and probably into August here. By the way, I wanted to mention to you that if you are attending our in-person services on Sunday right now, while things are kind of stripped down and we're not taking up an offering, if you see a person at those meetings who's a visitor, who's not a member at Grace Church, they're not somebody that you know, or maybe they've been attending a few weeks, I want to encourage you to reach out to them and find out who they are and see if they'd be comfortable being added to our mailing list. We have most of our communication is happening via email right now, and people that are visiting, there's not a visitor card for them to fill out at the moment or a place to put it. We're thinking about re-implementing that, but there have been a number of people visiting lately. There have been a number of families who are part of other churches whose churches are not meeting yet, but there's also been people who are new to the area who are looking for a church home. So. Brothers and sisters at Grace Church, I encourage you to reach out to those folks when you see them on Sunday and take up responsibility together for trying to enfold people that are looking for a church home in this time. To encourage you, our financial situation as a church is still good. The giving has still been relatively consistent relative to this time in the budget cycle for previous years. The giving in most churches, and Grace Church included, is not, perfectly consistent throughout the year. The third and fourth quarter tend to be heavier in giving, and we make up much of our budget during that time. We'll see if that's the case this year. But we're on target with our giving in the past, give or take a few $1,000s for right now. So be encouraged, friends, and those of you that are giving faithfully. Thank you for that. We're able to continue supporting our missionaries, paying our staff, myself included, keeping the lights on, giving benevolence to folks through the Helps and Needs Fund, all that sort of stuff, because you've been faithful to continue giving. I think, pastorally speaking, spiritually speaking, for us as a church, the primary concern for us in this next season of life together is going to be not growing weary. As it looks like some of these restrictions are not going to be relaxed immediately as we go into the fall and this very long summer stretches out even further, it's going to be challenging for us not to become discouraged. I've been studying Hebrews in preparation for this Bible study, and a passage comes to mind here. It's Hebrews chapter 12. I know this is familiar to many of you all. The scriptures say, "Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. In your struggle against sin, you've not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. And have you forgotten the exhortation that addresses you as sons? My son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor be weary when reproved by him. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves, and chastises every son whom he receives. It is for discipline that you have to endure. God is treating you as sons. For what son is there whom the Father does not discipline? If you're left without discipline, in which all have participated, then you are illegitimate children and not sons. Besides this, we have had earthly fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them. Shall we not much more be subject to the Father of spirits and live? For they disciplined us for a short time, as it seemed best to them. But he disciplines us for our good, that we may share his holiness. For the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it." Now, that passage speaks of the Lord disciplining his people through trials, and that surely is an element of what is happening right now. Discipline is not exclusively about corrective discipline, punitive discipline. Something's happened that needs to be addressed through discipline. There is the general discipline that is necessary just to mature the people of God. They're the kind of trials that strengthen our faith, that make us better disciples and more focused and robust in our discipleship, and that strengthen churches and help us be more established, teach us to put our roots more deeply into the Word and the Spirit of God. And whatever is happening right now on a number of levels, God is surely doing a number of things, but on some level, he is disciplining us as a church in order to make us stronger and more mature. And this passage applies to us. The warning here, the encouragement, is that if we're not going to grow weary in a time of discipline, that we need to consider him who endured for sinners such hostility against himself. The verses previous to it, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God." The antidote to weariness, to discouragement in a time of discipline and trial, is to consider Jesus, to look to Jesus, to consider our forerunner who went to the cross for us in our place that we might be forgiven. Turning our eyes to Christ in faith is what is going to enable us to persevere and not grow weary in a time like this. That reminds me of Christ's very own words in Matthew chapter 11 when he tells the crowds, to come to him, all who are weary and heavy laden, and he will give them rest. And that's what we're going to need to remember and believe and put into practice in this next season of life together this fall, as we're figuring out sometimes week to week, month to month, what things are going to look like, as we figure out what this season looks like as the weather starts to get cold again, go through more transitions and changes, and things will surely not be ideal. We're going to have to keep looking to Jesus if we're going to not grow discouraged and not grow weary. We're going to have to consider him. Now, because we are not meeting as often as we used to, so we're not meeting throughout the week for a variety of meetings, we've got to be all the more careful to do that on our own and in our homes, to set our faith on Jesus Christ, to remember him, to remember that he really lives and who he is, and remember his gospel, and actively set our faith working on him. We don't have the luxury of just attending a meeting where that's going to be led. We're going to be led into that. So we've got to set aside time to do it. Time in our schedules, time at home, time to open up the Bible and read what Jesus says and read what the Scriptures say about him and believe that it really is true. Time to bow before him in prayer and pour out our hearts before him. And really, again, set our faith to work on Christ. We've got to remember Jesus often so that we do not grow discouraged as this season continues to be drug out in the life of our church and in our community as a whole. The good news, friends, is no trial lasts forever. Right? We learn that lesson from the cross. Jesus himself endured the cross, despised the shame, but on the far side of the trial that God had set out, there is the resurrection. Right? There is relief that comes. And so for us, in Hebrews 12:11, we read, "For the moment all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who've been trained by it." It's my heart's desire that we as a church would be well trained by a season like this. That we would be, as we submit ourselves under the mighty hand of God, as we trust that he will exalt us in his own time, as we put our trust in him, even as the waves and the wind are blowing all around us, and the storm is lasting longer than we thought it would, that we set our hope in him and put our trust in him, and that does have the effect of training us over time, that we are a church characterized by the peaceful fruit of righteousness being yielded among us because of a season like this. I can imagine when this season is over, a lot of the things that used to bother us probably won't bother us as much. Some of the trials that the Lord has ordained for us in the future, we will be better prepared for them. And even if those trials end up being severe, even if it is a time of declension and even persecution that we were to see as a church, a season like this, responded to well by the saints of God and received with faith, will go a long way towards producing the peaceful fruit of righteousness in a time like that. So, brothers and sisters, don't be discouraged. Don't grow weary of doing good and being faithful in a season like this. And remember that the antidote to discouragement and to weariness is Jesus Christ himself. Look to him often. Look to him on your own. Look to him with other brothers and sisters. Look to him in your home, with your spouse, with your children. Look to Christ and remember him. And set your faith actively to work on him, that you might persevere in a time like this. And we'll persevere together. It's not going to be simple. It's not going to be easy. But we're going to get through it together. He has kept us thus far. He has not failed us, and he's not going to fail us now.